I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today. Today, I want to talk about using executive bonus plans to help us in with employee retention. This is an area, we're seeing a tight labor market, especially for good qualified employees, especially those that have been with us in our companies, helping us grow and build our companies. So when we start looking at employee retention, this is an area where we need to be thinking outside the box, especially for our high end employees. And there again, we've got to separate out who's a key employee and who will be rank and file employees. But we recruit good quality people. The question is, are we rewarding them in a way, especially that helps us retain those people? If they're good quality people and good employees, of course, our competitors want the same individuals. So can we do things that are outside the box to help, keep them? As we start looking at executive bonus plans, what I like is to stay in the non-qualified area. If we're non-qualified, that allows us to pick and choose who we're going to use, to benefit with these types of plans. An executive bonus plan, it's easy, it's to implement, it's easy to maintain. It's a straightforward way to provide benefits to those key employees. If I look at one of the big, issues when we're talking about employee retention and putting these new plans in place, of course, as an employer, you want to look, can I deduct this as I'm paying money into the plan with an executive bonus plan? The answer is yes. And the employee is going to pay income tax on the bonuses received. So as money goes out, employer deducts it, and the employee will treat that as a taxable income from the bonus received. The nice part about this as we start building this plan, think about how we can start bringing, the employee's family into, realizing how good of a benefit this is. And one of those areas will be providing a death benefit for the employee's heirs, and that will be paid out income tax free. So there again, it creates a nice hook and a carrot to bring our executive into more of the fold as being that key employee. When you look at this, one of the problems that you have in a normal vanilla executive bonus plan is there's no restrictions. So you put the money in, the employee can leave, just like with the 401k. They can walk with that benefit and they may not stay like you would want them to. We can add vesting. So as we're rewarding these key employees with the executive bonus plan, we can put a restriction on that and have a vesting for 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it is. It can be a graded in vesting, or it could be a cliff vesting, whatever you want. The restriction is we're going to be using a life insurance policy here. And this restriction is if the employee doesn't fully vest that benefit, they can never access the cash value. There will be a collateral assignment. Think about a lien on that policy. So, if the employee doesn't meet the terms of the agreement, they will never be able to access that cash value without some kind of concession from the employer. So let's look at how this sets up. First of all, we're going to have the employer, they're going to get a policy on our key employee. And of course, we've got the insurance company issuing that policy. The key employee is going to be the insured on this policy. And they're also going to be the owner of that policy. As the premiums are paid into the policy, whatever that is, that's going to be treated as a taxable bonus to the employee. There again, income to the employee, and the employer is going to treat that bonus as deductible at the company level. Now, again, if we want to add that restriction is going to be on the cash value. So think about this. The employee owns the policy. The employee gets to name the beneficiary of that policy, and the payer of this is going to be the employer, but the employer is going to treat that as a taxable benefit to the employee. If we want to add vesting to this and some restrictions, then we're going to restrict access to the cash value. So the employee can't access that cash value until the policy's vested, until the agreement's been met. And if the employee leaves, if they want to access that cash value ever, they're going to have to give some concessions by the employer. So let's look at this. It's always nice to think in theory, but let's see how this would work. So let's look at this case study. Employer just wants to set up an executive bonus plan. They're going to pay premiums of 25,000 a year for 10 years. That's the design of the plan. Of course, remember, we can add restrictions to it. That's just on top of the design. So if I look at this, and this is an illustration that's going to show us everything we need to know for the employer and the employee. First of all, we want to know what's the employer's tax rate. And after we know that, we want to know our key employer, our executive, what's their tax rate. So we've got a 34% tax rate for the employer, 31% tax rate for the employee. Now from the employer, let's look at both parties here. The employer's making an agreement, and the employer's making a commitment that says, as long as you're working for me, I'm going to put $25,000 a year into this policy for a 10-year period. And the employer can say this, if you're meeting this, if I want to put extra, things on, extra requirements, employee, as long as you're meeting these different criteria, then I'm going to go ahead and make those 25,000 per year commitments. So my commitment is actually out of pocket $25,000 per year, total of 250,000 over the 10-year period. Now remember, this is a tax deduction to the employer. So there's going to be an $8,500 tax savings per year. So the true after-tax benefit that the employer is going to provide is going to cost the employer $16,500 per year, so $165,000 over the 10-year period. And this is where the employer looks at that and says, does this meet their part of the equation? Does it feel right to them? And is this a big enough carrot to dangle in front of my employee? Now let's look at it from the employee's side. The employee's getting a $25,000 a year bonus that's being put into the life insurance policy. There's going to be a tax at the employee's rate of $7,750 per year over that 10-year period. That's going to be $77,500 that the employee's actually going to have to pay out of pocket for this benefit. So if you think about this, total outlay by the employee, $77,500 over this 10-year plan. Now, what I like to look at is what's the employee's, what's the benefit to the employee? Well, over a 10-year period, this policy is going to grow and have a cash surrender value at the end of year 10 of $262,538. So ask yourself the question, if you were this employee, would you like a $262,000 benefit that cost you $77,500 out of your pocket? And that's 3 times what they put into this. That's a great deal for this employee. And so you look at it, every time we're building a plan, we want to look at, is the carrot big enough? Now, the other carrot I like to look at is, are we providing this additional protection for the employee's family? And I like this because if something, I'm now telling my key employee, you're a big part of my organization. I want to protect you and give you an incentive, but I also want to protect your family in case something happens to you prematurely. So here's a death benefit that will pay income tax free to your family if something unforeseen happens. And you look at this, it starts out a little over 600,000. And by the time the employee's age 64, it's almost $1 million benefit paying out to the family. So this is a great deal. As I look at this, a great incentive there again. If we want to add that restriction on there, we would have a 5 or 10-year restriction on the cash value that just says, employee, if you don't stay that long, you can't access the cash value. So there again, a lot of times we look at the carrot, but we also look, is there a stick, just in case the agreement's not fulfilled. So I look at this, and as we're working in the employee retention and helping our clients, we're recruiting good people. We have to reward them annually for the work they're doing. Now, can we do a little bit more outside the box to retain these key employees so that they stay and help build this business, the way that the employer needs it? So I appreciate everybody getting on. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll talk again next week. Thank you.